What is going on, everybody? It is me, DevilNeverCry, and of course I bring you another trailer analysis. Now this is a trailer that literally just dropped today, the 17th of December, that is, by IGN. Now unfortunately, any attempt of uploading a straight copy of this trailer on YouTube will end up in it getting blocked, which is why I'm not going to be doing that. Instead, I'm going to be doing an analysis. We'll be going over things step by step yet again, trying to break things down and see what we can figure out. I know you guys like the last one so much that, hey, I thought I'd bring it back. So if we just start off, we get the usual M for mature. You know, we're kind of used to that. We get a Capcom logo here, of course. And first things first, if I drop my volume all the way down so I don't deafen myself, you can see here that V has literally just jumped off the van. He's had quite a hard landing, obviously, because the van was moving at speed. Now, maybe he was thrown out of the van, we don't know as well. But I'm willing to bet that he'd just jumped off. Then we get a look at the cracking face that we saw in TGS. Obviously we have the Capcom logo still here, and I'm just trying to... And at the moment you hear him recite a poem from William Blake, where he literally recites it word for word. This isn't new, we've known that he'd recite William Blake, especially considering the book he carries is said to be a book of poems. And of course all the clues we got from the music videos, we know that William Blake is central to his character. And then of course we get another look at the shadow here, looking quite big, might I add. Might just be a matter of perspective, but that is fairly big. So, and he's got the red eyes, of course. So at the moment he's just quoting as William Blake. I won't go too much into that because at the moment we don't know what it means without any context. That's why I'm not choosing not to dwell on it. Then we get a shot of V here walking with the Griffin, They seem to be walking through a tunnel here when it's seemingly something seems to erupt. You can see the tentacles here, but it's as if an earthquake is going on considering the screen and camera is juddering quite hard. Likely something behind V, that's why he decides to turn around. Then we see some more footage here of the train yard. You can see here V's obviously on some sort of tracks. The bridge here seems to be collapsing. We've seen gameplay of V in this location, as well as Nero in this location, so it's nothing new. But he seems to be running, just about to barely make it. Him and his ridiculous sandals. He just about jumps here, makes it. At this point, he's summoning Griffin, obviously, to fly. Interesting choice for text here. This reminds me kind of the DMC4 text. In fact, the DMC4 logo. But, of course, he goes and flies. You can do this during gameplay. Right, so if we go back to here, he seemingly flies. Obviously, these are two different scenes cut together, but he seemingly flies on top of the van while it's mid-motion. It seems to me that the van here seems to be just stuck in some sort of stasis. I highly doubt V would be able to move this fast. We haven't seen any character, in fact, move this fast, except maybe Dante with his Quicksilver. You can see he seems to have something like a row of trinkets and charms here, just hanging on his belt. Don't know if that's just a design choice, if that comes into his gameplay somehow. But then we get Panther here. I mean, he is said to utilize Panther's abilities to move really fast. Look at that stripy tail, that's funny. But I doubt it's this fast. This is like JoJo's like Dio level of time stop here, which I doubt he'd have. And we don't know if he's attacking the van here, or maybe there's something hostile inside the van. Maybe he's telling the protagonists. We don't know at this point. But the Panther here seems to be on his shoulders. Kind of funny angle, I might add, considering how massive this demon is. But he sends it to attack, and then we get a look at some more gameplay here. We've seen this locale before, the graffiti the graffiti-ridden walls. You can read some of the writing here, sort of about saying the end is near. You can see it scattered throughout, talking about some sort of apocalypse, as if people had got a wind of this happening. And we get a look at more gameplay here. The graphics here look fantastic. We can see Panther and Shadow and Griffin attacking, like in a joint combination here. Then we get a look at this locale that seems to be some sort of abandoned construction site. I believe this is where we see in the TGA trailer where Nightmare just slams through. But he seems to be fighting what I'd imagine are some blades or assaults here. We've seen these enemies before, but he uses the Summon Cain ability. Just attacks all three of them. This is Shadow here. We're going to get another look at a pretty cool throwback to DMC1, where you could jump on the spike in DMC1. That would actually freeze the Shadow in DMC1, and if you attacked it during this phase, you do a large amount of damage, considering that would be one of their weak spots. It's kind of funny to see V doing something here that was supposed to inherently weaken the demon. Don't know why he's doing that. I mean, here we see him throw his cane and sort of teleport. We've already seen this move before, this spike move. Then we get a look at what seems to be some sort of table hopper, which is a move that Nero had in DMC4, yet we see V here utilize. And it's funny because in 4 it acted as like a just dodge. You were rewarded with a faster dodge and less recovery frames if you timed a dodge perfectly. Here it seems that V can just do that at will. And then obviously he summons, as you can see, he summons Griffin, and he's flying about the battlefield here. But then if we cut back to here for a second, we can actually see, whilst he's messing about with his hair, I don't know if that's an idle animation or not, you can see Nero here in the background, sort of the cameo system. At this point the world is heavily flooded. Things are, obviously going pretty bad. Nero here seems to be standing on thin air. That might just be a glitch. That's funny. But then obviously V talks about himself having no name. I'm but 2 days old. Again, quoting William Blake. But that's besides the point, because if we look here, we can see Griffin just dive bomb pretty fast actually, and launches. That acts as a launcher, that move. In the meantime, we can see Shadow just tearing up the ground, sort of a joint aerial and ground assault. Then we see here, a classic move from DMC1, from Griffin, the Red Lightning. And then this move here, the spinning axe move from the Shadow, another classic move from DMC1, another throwback. But we get a look at V here. We know that he has to be the one to land the finishing blow, and if we look over here we can see it says the apocalypse has come. Like society knew that this was going to happen, but surprisingly Dante didn't, because he needed this to be brought to him as a job, funnily enough. But he's like, oh, I'm but 2 days old, la 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 la, just kidding, you can call me V. He seems to be some sort of edgy, that's the whole thing going on at the moment. He seems to be some edgy character. But we see here, this is likely his introduction to the devil trigger mechanic, where he changes. Unfortunately, we couldn't see what his shadow looked like. It'd be rather interesting if he changed. If he clicked his fingers and changed, and his shadow changed. That was a touch that was in DMC1. But again, we've seen this gameplay here before. And then here we can see him conversing with Griffin, asking, whether they found something or not. And we come to find out that he's actually looking for the Sparda sword. Interestingly enough, they seem to be in Dante's Mission 11 backdrop, the cemetery, the one we saw in the TGS demo of Dante. But Griffin here seems to be some sort of comic relief character, because he's like, I haven't found the sword, but I did find a couple of demons dancing. Then the interesting thing here is people seem to be fixated on this. They seem to be fixated on this idea of the lightning coming from the sky, which, it's to be expected. In DMC1, the lightning came from Griffin, either from Griffin directly himself or from the sky. So this isn't anything like new. Some people seem to think this is Mundus, but it's clearly not. You'd think that if it was from Mundus, you'd see the 3 eyes glowing in the sky, but no. I mean, some people might try and put together the 3 points of the lightning, but I'm not seeing that personally. But we have Nightmare here, you know, joint attack. He seems to be a powerhouse here, like he can just stack damage. He launches the giant enemy with the cleavers. The detail on the enemy is pretty crazy. But they're talking about, you know, keeping on going. The sword, the devil sword Sparda is nearby. Who knows why they want the sword? Personally, I'm assuming that, you know, V wants to deliver it to Dante after he was knocked out by the villain, which, you know, we see, which is likely at the beginning of Mission 11, the TGS demo. But again, we see a bit of V's vindictive side here, stabbing this thing to bits. Funnily enough, these enemies seem to go purple whenever V just touches them. Kind of weird, right? But just a minor detail, you know. Again, even here, the Goliath seems to be purple. But then that purpleness disappears when he's hit. Oh no, it doesn't even disappear. It's still there. We've seen this before. You've got Nightmare here. Ooh, Nightmare, and you've got Griffin. Shadow's nowhere to be found at this point in time, interestingly enough. You'd think there'd be an attack for all 3 at the same time. In terms of when this actually takes place, I'm assuming this takes place after Nero beats Goliath, which you guys have likely played in the demo, because obviously the cutscene there ends early, but prior to the fight Nero did state that he was meeting V. So maybe Goliath gets a second win, gets back up to fight, and you as V take on the Goliath while Nero goes ahead somewhere. But we get that final attack here with V riding on the arm. You get a negative image burst here. That's just the editing. Then here comes the interesting juicy bits that everybody wants to talk about. So as we see here, Dante's just passed out completely, likely with his fight with the villain, which obviously we know, seeing the TGA trailer, that he loses. What else do we know? Well, we know that Dante wakes up from this position, holding the Sparda, and he goes on to fight. We know this because this was shown in the TGS demo, that, you know, Dante obviously starts off in this area at the start of Mission 11, discussing how he'd woken up from a long nap. So if you put 2 and 2 together, it makes sense. But V here seems to sort of despise Dante. You know, he seems very frustrated. He's found the Sparda sword he wanted. And some people seem to think here that Dante has black hair. I'd like to just clear that up for a second. First of all, he's covered in blood, as you can see. His hair is soaked in blood, whether it's his own or somebody else's. Second of all, the lighting in here is pretty terrible. He's he's lying in V's shadow. 3, he's lying in dirt, which likely, you know, has added to his disheveled appearance and his hair color. And 4, Dante's hair is actually slightly grey. Like, it's obviously silvery, but it's slightly grey at the same time. And you'd know this if you look at pictures of a comparison of Dante in 4 and 5. However, there is also the theory that Dante losing his rebellion and subsequently losing his lack of demonic power, you know, in air quotes there. So him being stripped of his power has meant that he's just got standard non-demonic hair color. That's just a theory, though. But V's monologuing here about wishing Dante had never existed. As it zooms on in, as you can see better, his hair is still silvery grey here. You can see it better here. But V prepares to raise the sword that's bigger than him. He's struggling to hold up because he's so skinny. Then we've got a close-up of his face. That is such a deppy face, but that's besides the point. Then we get the Griffin here telling V to calm down, you know, where he's rapidly just like, no, like, don't do it. Telling him not to do it. Again, they're in the cemetery. Like, if you had any doubt as to when this takes place, you know, go look at the TGS demo. But he's screaming no, 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 and then we get the image of V just plunging this sword potentially into Dante's head. Then, interestingly enough, we get this zoom to his face here. And if you'd watched the TGA trailer, you'd know that we sort of see the aftermath of this with Dante opening his eyes, leading us to believe that V either attempts to attack Dante, but fails because he gets his ass whooped when Dante wakes up. 2, he plunges it into Dante to potentially help him, maybe save his life, maybe awaken his margin DT. Or 3, he just slams it into the side of him, you know, just on the ground somewhere, so that when he wakes up, eventually, he'll have a weapon to defend himself with. But personally, I do think Capcom are attempting to mislead us here in some sort of way in the marketing, because if you think about it, like, if this really is like how they're portraying it to be, if V really is evil, this is a massive, massive spoiler, and I don't see them just dropping a massive spoiler like that in a trailer when the game's about, you know, over 3 months away. So, you know, make of that what you will, but again, it would fit in with sort of the theories I've had of V being an evil bastard, but I don't know, I'm hoping Capcom here are just trying to mislead us. I'm hoping it's not that simple. It doesn't seem to be that simple, but we get the title drop yet again, the same one we saw at TGA, with V here and Dante over there, and obviously Nero, the main character, just standing here. Funnily enough, it looks as though one of Nero's arms is longer than the other. So Nico kind of did a poor job there, but I digress. That's that trailer done. Right, we've got a better look at V. For the first time, we don't have like a massive cliffhanger. Like, the only cliffhanger we have is, you know, this scene here. Might I add, the graphics for this are great, and the Sparta sword just looks so visceral. It's ridiculous. But that's that. What do you guys think about this? Do you think that V truly is evil, and that he is attempting to kill Dante here? Do you think that maybe he is like working with Dante, like as partners, but maybe he's just frustrated at this point in time? Yeah, let me know what you guys think. It has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you next video.